Hello and welcome to Ward Talk, CTN's look at the political scene in Ann Arbor. I'm your host, Bonnie Gabowitz. We'll be discussing issues and solutions with the city council members from our 5 wards each month. Joining us this month is Erica Briggs from Ward 5. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
And Erica, you've been on the council for quite a while now. How many years is it?
Well, I've just started my second term. I was first elected in 2020 and just reelected this past November. So going into year 5, I guess.
And this particular month, the month of February, we've got so much going on, not only locally but nationally as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to start with how the city is adjusting its plans based on the fact that both state and federal decisions are being made that could impact funding for various services and support services. That's a big topic. So let's start with that, because I know everybody is concerned about how it's going to affect the city.
Yeah, and I think, it's pretty overwhelming to see what's happening at the national level, right? And then what's kind of how the state's picking up on that as well and taking some of their cues. So in anticipation of a new presidential administration and with sort of lessons learned from the first one, we as a council set aside $1 million last year to deal with sort of unknown consequences. So we have a little bit in reserves anticipating that there might be some community impact. But right now with the flurry of executive orders and directives and memos, it's not quite clear what's going to happen, what the fiscal impact is. So I serve on the Council Administration Committee. I asked this question last week, are we not only accounting for the human toll that's going to happen locally, but also just the financial impact, potentially the city. And I think city staff is very aware of it. They're trying to keep track of it, but it's basically monitoring right now. We know the largest impact might be to our Office of Sustainability and Innovations, because we have $32 million in pending grants. And some of those grants are anticipated to help cover the salaries of existing employees. So there's that, but there's been a number of executive orders focused in on transportation. That may also have an impact, potentially how those play out. And of course, then there's all of the impacts on DEI.
And do we have a DEI program, a specific program?
We do. We have a director, and I think that's going to be. I don't anticipate that changing our operations necessarily, but what we're seeing is that a lot of executive orders are being tied to unrelated policies are being tied together. So funding is being tied to immigration enforcement and different pieces like that. And so it's not quite clear how this is going to play out yet for the city. And then, of course, the city and the university have a very strong and codependent relationship, right? So we're seeing the grants that are being limited on the university side. And we, of course, have large sectors of federal employees as well here. We have an EPA facility. So we're monitoring all of this, and we know there's going to be impact. We're preparing for that, but it's hard to prepare for it's hard to calibrate what the magnitude is going to be right now.
And I would think that one of the biggest concerns is support for housing and the homeless population. That could take a big bite out of your support services?
Well, yeah, I think certainly any changes on the federal side with regards to funding could potentially have an impact locally. We may be better equipped than some communities to be able to weather some of this change, in the sense that many of the policies that we know are under attack by this administration are ones that our own community has prioritized and provided some level of community support for. So we have a climate millage, we have a housing millage. So we're able to, these are issues that the community has identified as priorities. The reason those millages are so powerful, though, is that we're able to leverage them against other funding sources like federal funding sources. So the reason we have $32 million of incoming federal grants is because we have a local climate millage that we can then use to match federal funds. So we'll be able to make progress, but it won't be as rapid.
So this sounds like each month you're just dealing with whatever comes up. You have to respond and kind of shift the pieces around.
Yeah, I feel our city administrator's office, I'm sure many parts of the organization are monitoring this. Our city attorney's office has been very active in terms of joining in with amicus briefs on in different court cases. One on the birthright citizenship case is one area. On the states' rights, the freeze on federal funding was another piece. So we're doing what we can, and I'm glad we have a really strong staff to be able to do the work. Yeah.
And this also could affect the direction the city was going in looking into the utilities and looking at another way of having electricity, but that also was creating the need to spend a lot of money on the study. So what has the city decided so far about the path that you're taking with looking into the possibilities?
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. That's a big topic. So last November, voters approved the city setting up a sustainable energy utility. We refer to it as the SEU.
Right.
And that is, we wanted to make sure that we had full authorization and buy-in from residents to do this. So that's why we went to voters. But it's an opt-in, completely it's basically setting up a complementary utility that would run alongside our existing utility, which is run by DTE. And it's opt-in, allows us to advance our climate action goals with renewable energy. And we've heard a real interest from community members in, one, having more reliable energy, but also having green energy, right? And so this is something that we are allowed to do under state law. Now,
but it also involves spending a lot of money, right?
Well, and not necessarily. We have our climate, yes. Will it cost money? Absolutely. Do we have a climate action millage that allows us to move forward on this? Yes. And so it was not going to be it's not an initiative that was anticipated to require any additional tax dollars, any additional millages to fund this. So it was something we could do under the existing structure and support of the voters have already authorized. And so that's authorized. We're working on building up that utility, and we've done all the direction there. Now, simultaneously, what's a little confusing about this is folks will also hear that there is a push from the community to go further. That is a municipal energy utility, the MEU. And that is a utility that would essentially, instead of having DTE provide us with our energy, we would go and acquire all of DTE's assets. We would offer to purchase them. And then
that's big,
right? And then we would set up and be responsible legally for providing 100% of the power to Ann Arborites. But of course, in Ann Arbor, it's not just providing all of the power. There's a strong interest in also providing green power. So simply acquiring those assets doesn't get us there, right? There's another step that's needed, which is really what our SEU has been focused in on. So when folks hear about kind of what's happening with the MEU, we just had a vote that was delayed due to a sort of an issue with the contract at our last council meeting, but it's going to be returning to us the contract at the next meeting to authorize what is being referred to as the phase 2 study for this, which would essentially be a $1.7 million study to determine what do we think the valuation of these DTE assets are. And then there's sort of another component to this, which is, to make it more complicated, the going concern and stranded cost, which are essentially what would DTE, they're anticipating the revenue from our providing service here. What is the loss to them financially for not having this as part of their service territory? So that part would be determined basically through court proceedings, right? So we know that at the end of this study, we'll have a certain idea of how much we think the value of the assets are, but really it's going to be decided through a court proceedings. So because we will say one thing and DTE will say something else, and the truth is probably either what we say or somewhere in the middle, right? It's been 100 years since any city in Michigan has set up a utility. So while there are utilities across the state, there aren't any that have been set up recently. So going through this sort of these legal proceedings, it's quite uncertain what outcome there might be.
So in the minute we have left before our break,
Yep.
Does the MEU and SEU, is there anything that they have to depend on each other for what decisions they make, for them to go? I mean, is there any connection?
They're really, well, I think they are completely separate conversations. However, the MEU benefits from the city having built up this experience of setting up an SEU. So maybe after the break I could talk about, do I think that we should be proceeding with this at this moment in time?
Okay, it's more complicated than I even realized.
It's a big conversation for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when we come back, we'll just continue a little bit more.
That sounds great.
Right. We want to hear from you, so please email us questions at ctn@a2gov.org or tweet us at #CTN in Arbor. We're taking a break now, and we'll be coming back with more from Ward Talk.
Hi, my name is Sarah Lanise with the City of Ann Arbor Clerk's Office. Today, I'm going to tell you about the Ann Arbor Community Academy. The Community Academy is a program where community members interested in the city's long-term plans and day-to-day operations have a chance to participate in interactive sessions with city staff across different departments. City staff hopes participants will be motivated to play a more active role in shaping the future of Ann Arbor after participating in this program. Graduates from our academy are highly involved in our community and currently serve on City Council, the City Planning Commission, the Public Art Commission, and as election inspectors. You can find more information, including how to sign up, at a2gov.org/A2CA.
The Ann Arbor Farmers Market, located at 315 Detroit Street, proudly brings fresh produce, beverages, artisan items, and more to the community all year. Our 105-year-old market is producer only, featuring 125 vendors from Michigan. At market, you will find seasonal fruit and vegetables, mushrooms, herbs, farm fresh eggs, flowers, plants, honey, coffee, jewelry, art, and so much more. Market tokens for credit, debit, mobile pay, and Double Up food bucks can be purchased at our market office trailer. The market is open year-round, from 7 to 3 on Wednesdays and Saturdays, May through December. Between January and April, it will be open on Saturdays only, from 8 to 3. Learn more about the long and unique history of our market at a2gov.org/market.
What if the City of Ann Arbor created a reliable, 100% clean, affordable, locally built, and community-owned energy utility? The city is looking to do just that by creating the Ann Arbor Sustainable Energy Utility, or SEU, a community-owned energy utility that provides electricity from local solar and battery storage systems installed on homes and businesses throughout the city. Learn more and share your thoughts on the proposed sustainable energy utility by going to a2gov.org/A2SEU.
Since October 2015, Ann Arbor Inclusive has been produced by CTN and the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues. The show has featured numerous guests with or without disabilities to discuss issues such as health, politics, and wellness. Thank you, CTN, for your service in providing Ann Arbor residents with the wonderful opportunity to create television programs. Congratulations to CTN on its 50th year anniversary.
I'm Bonnie Gabowitz, and we're back with Ward Talk, and we're speaking with Erica Briggs from Ward 5. Erica, we had a lot to talk about already, and I just want to mention that this is just an introduction to what's going on about the energy and dealing with the funds. So this is going to be something we'll be continuing to talk about each month. Yeah. Continuing with how the federal government's affecting us locally. Yeah. There have been some reports, not necessarily factual, about immigration and how it's impacting our local citizens. What's happening with what is the city's policy when ICE agents are coming to Ann Arbor? Right.
And maybe after this I can go back and just talk a little bit more about the MEU, just kind of wrap up that conversation just a little bit. Okay. But moving over to ICE, so certainly we know that this is immigration enforcement is and the targeting of migrants is something that is a priority of the Trump administration. So what we have been hearing, and it's difficult because sometimes the accounts aren't always accurate. A few weeks ago, we heard that ICE was visiting a number of restaurants across the community, and they don't necessarily inform the police that we're coming. They don't. They're not in contact with the police department, and so tracking down where and sort of it goes across the grapevine really quickly. In terms of our own, we were trying to figure out what was happening sort of in live time. We could only substantiate that they had visited a couple of restaurants in the area and hadn't made any arrests at times. But what I found out is that we are not informed of any arrests or detainments that happen in our community. And so getting access to that data is really, we don't have it, and we don't know what's going on. We're in the dark. What the policy of our police department and our community is, we set a resolution in 2017 that essentially says, if there's a warrant, of course, we will help and assist with. You're legally required to. Not only legally required, but if there's a warrant, there's probably some good reason for that, right? And so our police department would, of course, assist in arresting somebody. However, we will not violate the rights or the due process of any individual, regardless of their citizenship, and just detain them. That's something that is not aligned with our, the Constitution or with our own values, and so that's at odds with both the state and the federal government at this point. The state has said now that any community that does not fully assist in abiding by federal immigration policies will and these detainments will not have access to state earmarks. So, and that's on top of what the federal government is doing. So,
I think at this point, the best thing we can do is try to make sure that whatever news is out there is factual and true, so that some of these rumors, they
well, I think
stir up a lot of excitement.
I think we just need to be careful. Everything that we share can cause fear, right? And we want to make sure that we are sharing accurate information. And the reality is that people have a right to be scared right now. What's happening, the policies and the actions of the federal government, and how that's affecting our local community are scary, and I think reprehensible, and should be a concern for all citizens in a democracy. However, we should be careful about sort of the moment-by-moment information that we're sharing, and recognize that it spreads quickly, and that sometimes misinformation can do harm too. Because if folks don't feel safe going to work, that can be scary. That's of harm as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's back up. You had a little bit more to say about MEU.
Yeah, and so this is, it's a big interest. There's a number of advocacy organizations and prominent environmental organizations and community members that have been interested in seeing us explore and walk down that road of pursuing a municipal electric utility. For myself, throughout this process, I've said I've been willing to, because there's such strong community interest, get more information and data, go through those study process, go through that second phase of the study. Those calculations have really shifted for me, namely because of I am aware of sort of the real challenges of doing this. Like Boulder did this and went through the process for 10 years, spent $28 million, and wasn't able to set up a utility. So there's sort of the practical realities, but beyond that, right now we're dealing with a really different world and resources. We don't know what the impact to our community may be, and so I think it's time to be cautious, make sure we focus in on what our existing priorities and responsibilities are to our community. And if this is something that is, and I think it will be of interest for our community to continue to explore, then we should take a little bit of time, make sure we pause in the process and have a better understanding of what lies ahead for us before undertaking a really ambitious and very costly endeavor.
Big decisions.
Yeah.
Very big decisions.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We have a small topic. It's still winter.
Yep.
And I know the city was trying to offer better services with the sidewalk and street clearance.
Yeah.
And also, I know there was a little item where the trash bins needed to stay out of the bike lanes, and so there could really be a lot of easy clearance. And how is that going?
Yeah, so streets and sidewalks, this is like the meat and potatoes of local government, right? Just trying to make sure that our infrastructure is clear and working and accessible for everybody, regardless of how they're getting around, whether that's walking or biking or on bus or driving around in a car. And so we know the weather patterns are shifting, and so it's changing how our storms are operating as well. But we've been, making some adjustments. We allocated additional resources this year so that snow plowing on city streets, in the neighborhood
it's
streets.
Especially the secondary streets.
It's the secondary streets
needed
that are kind
attention.
of that second priority, and so
Right.
we've put in extra resources there, and the reports that I'm hearing from residents are that it's going great, that they've seen a real difference this season, and that there's clearer roads. That's great. I've heard good feedback from different parts of the community around that snow clearance on sidewalks has improved, and there's more accessibility there. And then I've also heard in other places that indeed the plows are still going by and pushing back up snow onto the sidewalks and making it really challenging after a storm. And so that was the message I just sent off to our city administrator this week of we're doing, we're making some good progress, but there's definitely still some work for us to be doing. And then when it comes to those bike lanes that you mentioned, we want to make sure that all of our transportation infrastructure is accessible and we don't want to build it and then block it, right? So it just means that people need a little more education about, okay, where do you put your trash can, your compost can when it's trash day, and that's not right in the middle of the bike lane. It's and it's so we're putting out some more guidance, and people can find that on the website. But hopefully it's fairly common sense, but it provides a few extra tools for folks that for our community standards when there are some repeat offenders there.
I have a question that probably will take up a lot more time that we can continue in other segments. But basically, with the city's goal of increasing density, which has been going on and will continue, how does the city look at supporting all of the city's services that need to support a higher population, such as police and fire, that type of thing, and even the municipal offices, because we're talking about a great increase in population. So how does the city look to increase their services?
Yeah, so you're right, big topic, and I think.
Well, let's just get
Oh
started.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm trying to think of where to go, but and I just want to preface it by, I think sometimes folks are wondering why are we growing so much? The reality is that community affordability is the largest concern that residents have here. It's expensive to rent, it's expensive to buy. People, there's no one single tool to address this. Adding to our housing supply is a big part of the solution. So we know that we need more housing, and we know there's great demand for that. But then in terms of how to grow and how to address that, each of our city services is very aware of, okay, what are those impacts? And so we hear from our fire department says, okay, if we're going to be having planning ahead, so that if we're going to have more high rises in the downtown, for example, then we need to have fire equipment that can service those buildings. And so they're letting us know what those emerging needs are, and we're beginning to put it into the budget so that we're planning and planning for those funds to be here. One of the important pieces around growth as well is that there's only a few ways for the city to acquire more revenue. That's either by taxation, right, cutting services, or that's by adding to our tax base. So while we grow, we're also adding to our tax base. Some of our largest, our largest tax payers are those buildings, those new high rises. So they help to support, and they are required to support the infrastructure that they need.
Well, this is a topic we'll definitely continue.
Absolutely.
But in the minute we have left, I definitely want to put a plug in for your website. You have a newsletter.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and that's monthly?
I do, yes. Well, it's bi-monthly. So my website is Erica for A2, ERICAFORA2.com. So, and on there people can sign up for my newsletter. I send it out twice a month in advance of the regular council meetings, and let folks know what the highlights are on the agenda, and what my thoughts are, and welcome feedback from residents. They can be in the fifth quarter.
And another plug is to go on the city's website. There's lots of information.
Yep, and in fact, on there is something called Ask Ann. It's a new service, and you can just
lower right.
Exactly, you can just put in a question, and hopefully it'll come up with an answer for you.
Well, thank you so much for helping us with this very dense information and helping us understand.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
Remember to join us for a new episode every month. We want to hear from you, so please email us at ctn@a2gov.org. Attention, Ward Talk. You can also follow CTN and ask questions on Twitter at twitter.com/CTN in Arbor. We'll make sure to include your questions. To watch this and all of CTN's program, head online to youtube.com/CTN in Arbor. For Ward Talk, I'm Bonnie Gabowitz. Until next month.